sort of banks.
I'm very sorry, Harry. I forgot to press the record button at the beginning of the meeting.
The only bank that would accept an organisation like ours was Metro Bank, and even now I don't think they're taking anybody new. And from December, we're going to have to pay £3 a month for that. So as long as we can rely on generous donations, then the funds that we've got in the bank can go towards the next phase of our building resilience project, which hasn't really happened yet. Good. My water's arrived. I don't have anything more to say, Jane. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Has anybody got any questions?
Lovely. Okay, that's what we like. Nice, Brits moving through things. So, moving on to the election of officers. So we have 4 roles to elect: chair, treasurer, secretary, vice chair, and membership secretary. So I'm going to invite nominations for the role of chair, please.
Well, didn't we decide the other day that it would be a good idea to have a revolving chair, as you wish to
Okay.
resign as chair, and we're prepared to carry on as secretary, so that we could each organise a meeting in turn? Is that a good idea, or how do we put that forward?
So, to my mind, there are 2 slightly different roles. So, there is chairing the monthly meetings, which is one thing, and there's actually the official role of chair. So, the person who fulfills that role for other things, which may not be very many things, but there are. Do you know what I mean? So, you need to have a person in that role, and I think it is a good idea to have different people chairing the monthly meetings. So those of the steering group and, frankly, anybody else that is keen to. But I still think we need to have a single person as a named chair. I think it
And are
probably
you
is.
not prepared to? You're not prepared to carry on as the main chair?
No, I'm afraid not. Sorry. But in the absence of other volunteers, I'd like to nominate Harry to do that. Unless anyone else wants to put themselves forward.
I'll second it. Harry, extra person.
Are you happy with that, Harry?
We have to have a vote, don't we?
I think we do have to have a vote. So let me just make it sound. I should make a note. So propose. I need to. Okay. So we take a vote on whether we're happy to take Harry as chair for the next 12 months. I think we can say that's unanimously approved. Lovely. Thank you.
Very kind of you all. Thank you for putting your trust in me.
Very kind of you, Harry. Oh, I think I accidentally put my hand up. Okay. Right. So that's fine. So the next one on my list is the role of treasurer, which is currently filled by Harry. And unless anyone is desperate to take it away from him, and unless Harry is desperate to give it up, I think it's a relatively low intensity workload. So perhaps you might carry on with that too.
I'm happy to do that, particularly
Yeah.
since it would be really complicated getting the bank mandates all transferred across.
Oh God, absolutely yes. And we barely do anything with the bank account. So it'd be a lot of hassle for very little benefit.
That could all change.
Well, you never know. It could do. It could do. Yes, absolutely. In which case we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So I'm happy to propose Harry as treasurer if someone else is willing to second.
Seconded.
Thank you. And can we take a vote on that, please? All in favour? Thank you very much.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it puts your hand up automatically, I think. Thanks, Claire. So then, secretary. As Rupert mentioned earlier on, although I'm stepping down as chair, I'm happy to carry on as secretary, unless anyone else wants to fight me for it. I'm taking that as a no, so I'll need a proposer and a seconder, please.
I'll propose you, Jane.
Thank you, Hilary.
I'll
And
second.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very much. And all in favour? Thank you. Lovely. We then have the role of Vice Chair and Membership Secretary, which is currently held by Alexina, who isn't here today. And I have to admit, I did ask her whether she wanted to stay on the steering committee, but I didn't ask whether she wanted to carry on with that role. Unless anyone else is keen to do it, I can ask her after this meeting if she's happy to carry on. What do you think? What does anybody else think?
Could we ask if anyone else would be keen to chip in on that?
Good idea to keep Alexina, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll ask her after the meeting if she's happy to go ahead with it. If she's not, then we'll address it at the next public meeting. So, should we say that you propose that then, Rupert?
Yeah, okay by me, yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm happy to second, and can we say all in favour? Thank you. So just to say that as I'm not chair anymore, what will happen for this meeting is that I will chair up to the end of the AGM. Then I'm going to hand over to Harry because he would formally be chair, and as we haven't agreed anyone else to do it on a revolving basis for this meeting, I think that's appropriate. But it's going to be an open discussion, so relatively informal. Anyway, I think. So we then move on to other people that are on the steering committee. We currently have 6 other steering committee members, all but one of which is here tonight, so that's great. So that's Claire Robertson Marriott, Claire Slater, who we can see tonight as Claire's iPhone, Jonathan Harris, Mick Lawkins, Rupert Knowles, and Teresa Cox. So can I first of all check with all of those of you that are here whether you're willing to carry on as steering committee members?
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. Is anybody else interested in joining the steering committee? I can just briefly explain what it involves. It's currently a monthly steering committee meeting, although I think we're looking at reducing the frequency of that. Where essentially it's about sort of discussing some big and some small issues around Corn's sort of strategy and direction decisions that we want to make. So it's not particularly onerous if anybody was interested in getting more involved than they are now. Martin, are you talking? Because I can't hear you.
Is that online? An online meeting?
It's an online meeting. We normally meet on the last Monday of every month, 8 o'clock.
I may be interested in pursuing a kind of plant-based agenda of my own, if that would be okay. Can I, at the end of the meeting, after we've discussed things, can I get back to you?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. And if you want to maybe come along to the next meeting and see how you get on and what you think, then, you know, that would be fine too. Yeah. But yes, we're always keen for more people to get involved, so that would be great.
Martin, we've also got a WhatsApp group, and I think we had a serious discussion at the last steering group about not meeting every 4 weeks, simply because there wasn't enough to discuss every 4 weeks that couldn't be handled within a WhatsApp conversation.
Yeah. Anybody else possibly interested in that? Otherwise, I will move on. Rupert.
Is it all right for me to continue to style myself as agricultural correspondent?
Absolutely. definitely. If necessary, we'll make you a badge.
Well, one often gets asked, what's one's position when one's writing something about corn? And I often use corn as something because it says who you work for. I don't work for anybody, but I put down corn agricultural correspondence. Very convenient.
Yes, and it entitles you to ask people questions.
Yes, you're a press pass.
Yes, if only. But yeah, lovely. Okay, that's great. Yes, thank you.
What about Grace? Do you want Grace to be on the steering committee, or at least to come along to one to see what it's like?
Yeah, I'd be happy to come along to the next one, maybe.
Okay, that'd be great.
If that works, yeah.
Yes. We might need to agree with that. So the next one we have in the diary, it will be the last Monday in October, which is worryingly close. It's actually next Monday.
Oh.
So I can send out the details. Well, I guess it's going to be up to Harry really now, because he's going to be the new chair, whether we want to go ahead with that as planned or whether we want to skip that and move on to the November one.
Well, I think it rather depends on what arises from our discussion.
Yes, I agree.
This evening. Yeah.
Jane, put me down for the steering committee.
Okay, all right, fantastic, thank you.
And,
all right, lovely. I'll send you the details. Thanks, Martin.
Take it from there.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. So I believe that effectively concludes the business of the AGM. Thank you all very much. We now move on to the public meeting, when I will hand over to Harry to chair.
Perfect timing, Jane. It's just about 8 o'clock, 8 p.m.
Wonderful.
But
I think the main thing
before then, Harry, we ought to thank Jane for all the work she's done as chair, didn't we?
We do.
We were about to do that.
Let's have a vote of thanks.
Yes.
Ah.
Thank you, Jane.
You're very welcome. Honestly, it's been a joy almost all the time.
And a lot of it is actually very much behind the scenes, because Jane makes lots of friends and does corn a lot of good. And I hope that will continue, because I don't get out anywhere near as much as Jane.
I don't get out as much as I used to, Harry, but
what I would like to see for the next bit of conversation is good ideas that you might have for things that corn might do. I think we've established that Corn Exchange does get read, and we do enjoy getting the submissions from various people. If you know anybody who has got an interesting story to tell, make them aware that Corn Exchange is always interested in publishing climate or nature related stories. And if you fall across any newsworthy things, just let us know, because as a one-stop shop for everything to do with what we're up to, I think it's quite useful. And I think the more we can make of it, the better it is for corn generally. We only have a couple of really big projects that corn is involved with over the next 12 months. The Natural History Society, the Northamptonshire Natural History Society, is organising a festival of nature. And Corn is supporting Mike, who is on this call here, in getting that off the ground as much as we can. There'll be more coming out about that in due course. And Mike, do you want to say anything about it?
Yes, actually. Well, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Well, hopefully you'll be able to put a stand on at the exhibition. But also, there's another one coming up next year as well, which is being run by Kettering Wildlife, and I'll just get the title to that up. They did one last year, which is what prompted us to start the one at Delaprey. Wasn't particularly well attended because the weather forecast wasn't good. On the day, the weather was perfect, but the weather fronts came through immediately before and immediately after. So they've got a much bigger event on the 30th and 31st of May next year, which is going to be called the Midlands Festival of Nature. And they are, I've got no other details in that other than it is running a whole week before that with the schools. Although I notice it's spring bank holiday, so whether the schools are in all week or not, I don't know. And then, can I carry on?
Yes.
The other thing that's happened is we were contacted by Averdi, who are the subcontractor for maintenance of the Northampton Borough parks that were, along with RSPB, to see if we'd like to get involved in activities in the park. For those of you who don't know the Natural History Society, it makes our membership here today look quite young. So we're having trouble getting people out. If there's anyone who's good at identifying birds and plants, we can do the microscope stuff. So the little things in the ponds, we're pretty good at that. But we've lost our skills on plants. And very few of us, I can only identify about 30 birds. After that, I have to start looking at the book. So if anyone would like to volunteer to help on that, we'd be really very grateful.
What does that look like, Mike? What are they?
We haven't got any further details as yet. I've only spoken to them once, and I did chivvy them up with an email yesterday to say that I need to know nearly 3 months in advance what we're going to do because of our timetable. Plus, we're doing quite a lot of events next year anyhow, because it's the 150th anniversary of the society. But they're talking about, although there's an RSPB member there, they're talking about it basically being a sort of BioBlitz. They're hoping to restrict the numbers of the public on that to about 30. So I get the idea that it might be a ticketed event. And they'll be doing it in different parks in Northampton. And there are some big parks in Northampton. Brack Mills joins, well, Brack Mills is also Hardingstone Park, and it carries on round. We've got, what was it, Staunton Lakes, I think, can't remember the name of it, but down by Sixfields, Bradlaugh Fields, and they're talking about the set town centre parks as well. And I think the real idea is that they haven't got money and they need to record biodiversity. So they're trying to get as many people interested as possible. From the natural history's point of view, very greedily, we're trying to get people to join the society. But we certainly have lost a lot of our skills. So, and I will be there identifying clouds and the raindrops.
Thank you, Mike. So we'll put something on Corn Exchange about what's planned as and when there's more flesh on the skeleton. So the date for everyone's diary is September 2026.
19th of September is the Delaprey event.
Yeah.
And you don't yet know the planned date for this ID Verdi BioBlitz event?
No, I haven't got those dates.
Okay.
The lady running it's on holiday until next week. So
okay. I mean, I'm guessing they'll be looking at next spring probably. You wouldn't want to do that in the winter.
They are looking at doing something possibly in January or February because they would like to get the astronomy section involved as well. So they're trying to get people, is to get people out into the parks who are interested, and then hopefully get them more involved with the wildlife side. And of course, by March time, it's starting to be very late before it's dark.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question of Mike? Sorry, I missed the beginning. Were you talking about ID Verdi's idea for biodiversity restoration then in your description?
Yes, basically they're trying to. They did say that they'd approached the Wildlife Trust and got a big bill, so they didn't go with them. Because, of course, if the Wildlife Trusts come along, they will be professionals, experts in their field, and it depends where the Wildlife Trust's got sufficient funds available at that time to cover that area. So what they're trying to do is to generate general awareness, really. And that will enable, hopefully, people to go out into their park and watch what's happening, and if there's something unusual, report it. And then the county recorders, certainly the bird recorder, he works on the basis of, he goes on to the various websites where people report what they've seen. He'll record those as sightings unless it's something unusual, in which case he will investigate further. So, yes, it should all feed into the biodiversity records, hopefully.
And the reason I asked that was because today I met somebody from the management committee of Abington Park.
All right.
And he kind of walked me around I mean, this is because of the It's Your Neighbourhood project that I was involved with in the summer. And he described what he wants to do with the spinney, or the idea of restoring biodiversity in the spinney, the two spinneys in between the lakes in Abington Park. One of them's been cleared, and people are kind of walking through that. And he's already kind of talking about getting a consultant in to do surveys for plants, birds, and so on. And a guy called Vic, I can't remember his surname, who's the Friends of Eastfield Park, who's an ecologist, has actually done some kind of monitoring of the stream that flows through that spinney. So that's a kind of an incipient, but actually the irony today was that ID Verdi were there trying to clear the snowberry invasive species, and we had to go and ask them to stop it, because one of the reasons that apparently you can get funding for is if volunteers actually do the clearing rather than ID Verdi, which is a contracted business. Anyway, so there is that idea, which so interesting that ID Verdi wanted to do this. So I can take that to him.
Yeah. It's interesting what you're saying about him recording the life in the lakes and the streams as well.
Yeah.
That's an area where we have got expertise. So
okay.
It's something that we would be interested in. We did a survey a few years ago with Nenscape, and that was looking at Wootton Brook and the Nen generally, and a few other areas. Algae and things like that.
Algae, yeah.
Hilary.
Oh, hi. I just want to say something. I think I've been a member nearly since the start of the organisation, but I've only attended very, very intermittently to the meetings. But I have tried to catch up with the minutes and sort of see what was going on generally. My one sole contribution was when we started, it was West Northamptonshire Climate Action, which the nearest acronym would have been WANC. And I suggested that we went to Corn, Climate Action West Northamptonshire, which everybody accepted very happily. So that was my contribution. I feel I haven't really done anything towards the organisation since, but I'd be quite happy to take on the £3 a month bank fee that you were talking about.
Well, that's very generous.
Yeah.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't got internet banking because I was horribly scammed at one point and they took it off me. So
we can do real money.
What's that?
We can do real money.
Yeah, or if you give me all the details, I can arrange for a direct debit.
That's very, very generous, Hilary. And we hadn't forgotten that you christened us. But what we didn't know at the time was that CAWN was an acronym for something completely different. So that's why we've had to put the hyphen in, or the minus sign.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's pretty good. Good on two counts, Hilary. One, for reminding us of your importance in our naming, and secondly, to keep us on the straight and narrow financially with our Metro Bank. Good. I'd said that there's two big projects on the go. Mike's, the Natural History Society is one, and the other is this thing that we've been running about how much energy we use at home.
Sorry to be a pain, Harry. Sorry. I just wanted to say something. I put my hand up.
Oh, so I beg your pardon. I couldn't see it.
Sorry.
You need to wave.
Okay. I only wanted to say to Mike regarding the BioBlitz thing, that's something I would definitely be interested in taking part on, if that's depending on when it is and what's required. I mainly do birds and probably can't do much better than your 30, but I'll do my best. And I think we might have one or two other people in our ranks who are much better at things like that than me. So we should be able to recruit some people who have got a little bit of expertise, I think.
Yes, we'll welcome it. While trying to put together this event at Delapre, I've been looking at all the local groups, and thank you for the list on your site. That was useful. But there's a huge number of them. And Northampton birding is quite big. So we will be getting in touch with those, I think, if this gets going.
Sorry. Was there anybody else who wanted to add anything on that? Good. Okay. So the how much energy we use at home and what we can do about using less of it was where we started a couple of years ago. And we bought some kit that allows us to measure the temperature inside our homes and keep a record of it over a period of time. And we paid a consultancy in Weedon to monitor 10 of our homes over a 3-week period. What we discovered was that there's an awful lot of variation in how efficiently our homes operate, and more significantly, how our perception of comfort varies from one family to another. And the reason why it's important to recognize that these things are different is because the world out there, when it looks at retrofitting a building, it makes very generalized assumptions. And I think we're of the conclusion that those generalized assumptions aren't necessarily universally applicable. And what that means is that if we go down a route of accepting all of this received wisdom, then we risk either over-specifying the investment to improve ourselves, or worse, not getting any benefit from it. And at the moment, we're in an environment nationally where the building regulations that dictate how efficiently we ought to be saving energy have not been published. So we're in limbo in terms of the latest legislation. And there is something called an energy performance certificate, which if you ever had to sell a house, you'll know you'll have to have an energy performance certificate. And that's the starting block for any grant support that you might want to apply for. £7,500, for example, is what you would get if you wanted to swap your gas or oil or solid fuel burner for a heat pump. And the starting point for that is an energy performance certificate. And in the same way, if you were eligible because of certain social, basically, if you're getting any benefits, you can also get other grants to improve your home. And again, those rely upon having an energy performance certificate. And at the moment, the problem with the energy performance certificate that's been recognised by many people is that they're too general, that although you might have an A, B, C, D, E, F, or G ranking, the things that the certificate suggests would improve life for you is very, very generalized. And I think we who are involved in this project and the people in Whedon who are the specialists in assessing these things are looking to be much more efficient at understanding how an individual's home can be improved. And I think we want to work over the next winter season coming up now on improving that assessment, because if you've got an unreasonable assessment and everything else is built upon what that assessment is, then you've got no way of knowing whether the investment you're planning to make is worthwhile or not. Anyway, if anyone was interested in any of that, then just keep an eye on Corn Exchange and just drop us a line. I haven't mentioned another quite important thing that we have done in the past with Mick Lawkins, not Mike, Mick. There's a group in Holland called More Trees Now, who are, sorry, Mike, have you got your hand up?
Yes.
I was just saying.
Sorry, Mick. Mike had his hand up. I beg your pardon.
No, it was just a passing remark, really, when you were going on about the energy. A friend of mine, she's bought a brand new house 3 years ago with solar panels. The whole estate, the houses were built with solar panels. And then during the nice hot weather we were having a few weeks ago, their little WhatsApp group for the estate, someone said, we must be saving a fortune. And someone else said, well, my electricity bill hasn't changed. And these things hadn't been registered. Oh. So they were getting no advantage from them at all. The whole estate.
I mean, they hadn't been registered for energy going back into the grid.
Yeah, they were basically paying for the energy they were using from their own. So it was all counting as general electricity. They saved nothing at all.
Should have fitted batteries as well. They would have done then.
Can I say something?
Certainly, Roy.
Oh, sorry. From my experience, we went down the EPC route. We got solar panels and we decided to have an air source heat pump. We're with Octopus, and it took a while to set up, but we got an export tariff. And we found that for about 4 or 5 months over the summer, we weren't paying anything apart from the standing charge. So it does work, but it took a while to establish that the export tariff was actually operating. And so maybe what you're saying is probably quite true, that it just hadn't been set up correctly in the first place by the energy company.
Well, the builders hadn't given the energy company any details, and they hadn't given the purchasers any details either. So all the householders were happily, they were doing okay, but because the meter was there.
Oh yes, yeah. I think the battery is the important feature. If you're going to operate any system like that using solar panels, you've got to have a battery, otherwise you're going to lose all the advantages.
Martin. Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
I say there are two different sides of the same coin. The retrofit is kind of personalized to the house, if a house has a personality, and is usually very expensive, whereas solar panels now are relatively cheap. Batteries are also getting cheaper. I'm with Roy. I've got panels. I pay nothing in the summer, and I have batteries. I'm now just starting to creep, because there's no sun for the last 2 weeks, into sort of paying a bit. But what I'm doing is charging my batteries up with very cheap electricity between 2 and 5 in the morning, and that charges up the batteries, and so I'm using the battery power during the day. So it's producing energy for the grid, it's saving CO2, and it's probably a lot simpler and cheaper method than retrofit. I mean, it's not heating the house and giving you a warmer house like retrofit probably would, but if we're thinking about climate change, it's probably a more efficient way of doing things.
I'm just going to say hello to Jonathan, who's joined us. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Apologies for being late, but I've been at another meeting. So hello, everyone.
We're looking at, we've done the AGM, so that's fine. You've been re-chosen for the steering group. And we're just looking at where we are over the next 12 months, going to have some fun. And I was going to start talking about Mick's tree work, because the Dutch have got a big group called More Trees Now, and what they do, they collect saplings that are growing in appropriate places. So when acorns take root in the wrong place, or any other seedling takes off, they dig them up, and they dig them up in a big way, and have organized collection points where people are aware that they can go along and pick up some trees. And Mick did a similar thing, and you've got a grandly titled group called
Northamptonshire Woodland Community Volunteers.
Yes.
There we go.
And it takes quite a lot of organisation, and I think we're going to relieve Mick of some of that in the short term by organising our own kind of tree swap. I've got quite a few that a friend of Jane gave me, and we're going to get some more of that. And I think what we would like to do over the winter period is invite anybody to pick up any saplings that are in the wrong place, pot them up, and perhaps we'll have a meet and swap. I don't want to tread on your toes, Mick, but would that be all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine, because I'm stepping back a bit this year because of health reasons, as you know. So, which is a bit disappointing, because I think we were on a slight roll. But yeah, that's the way it has to work, I'm afraid.
Well, I think if we can sting, the problem is you weren't getting much collaboration from certain forest owners, were you? And I think if we can push it a little bit by taking the initiative ourselves. Yeah. So anyway, if anyone's got any little treelets growing in the wrong place in their gardens, if you feel like digging them up and popping them up, we'll have a tree swap. I don't know what sort of time of year would that be best done, Mick, Jane?
I would say sort of February time is a good time.
Good.
So
okay.
I wouldn't dig them up yet either. I'd wait till they're out on leaf and then pot them up, and we can bring them all to some place and have a distribution.
Good. Okay.
Essentially, they need to be planted before the middle of March. Potentially earlier, because springs are getting warmer and warmer earlier and earlier, aren't they? So yeah.
Round about January, we'll see who's interested, and we'll see what we've got by way of contributions, and then we'll organise something How about Valentine's Day, somewhere around there? We show the love for our trees.
Sounds good.
I don't know what time of
because
year.
I tell you why. Because actually, that'd be a really good thing because normally that's the week when the Climate Coalition have their Show the Love week, is it? Because that's when the WI always have an event around Valentine's Day for that, so we could coincide with that as well, tie into that. And in the meantime, we can get the word out to people to save up their trees.
Okay, good. Anyone else wanted to say anything about trees? Teresa gave me the idea of collecting acorns. So if anybody else wants to make the most of the extraordinary quantity of acorns, that would be good.
And anybody who's got pigs, now's the time to put them out for pannage.
Yes, okay. The question of what to do about West Northamptonshire Council is interesting. I've always been a little bit anti the council because I only see the effects of what the planning group do, and the planners where I live in Toaster, they've not really been very helpful towards us. So I've got a kind of antipathy, but I know that it's not constructive to be negative about the council. But I do feel rather negative about the statements that some of the councillors make, or rather the people in London who are running things on behalf of the Reform Party. So I don't know what do you think we ought to be doing about our West Northamptonshire Council? Maria.
Please butt in if somebody's well, I need you to explain what I'm actually trying to say. Somebody, maybe Jonathan or Jay, but basically I'm very concerned about clean air, and I live in Abington, the centre of Northampton, and I met with my local councillors who are Labour, Zoe Smith and Bob Purser, and I said, well, what can an individual do? And we thought maybe I could join as a member of the public a small group. Now, this is where I need help. Maybe Jonathan can help me. I think there are what are called scrutiny committees, and one of them is to do with place. Is that true? And can I go? Okay, so I thought I'd go.
Shall I answer that directly? Yes, there is. There's a place and resources committee, and yes, members of the public can go. Members of the public can ask questions and or make statements. It's a very limited amount of time, as Harry will vouch for, but you can. You do need to pre-register, and it needs to be relevant to an agenda item. So there are some rules around it, but yes, absolutely, members of the public can.
Yes, and it would be worth just going to attend and see what's in their minds, wouldn't it? And
yeah, check the agendas in advance. So there was a place and resources meeting yesterday evening, and there was a range of things on there last night, but nothing. You won't be. Oh, look, my thumb's gone up. I don't know how I did that. There was a range of things on there last night, and you won't be surprised to hear that none of them were particularly related to air quality, climate, or anything of that nature. And you know, the proverbial question of what we do next is one that's resonating in my head as well, because I'm not sure where we go next either, and I still haven't got an answer. But we can't. I take Harry's point completely, but I don't feel like we can just ignore it. So,
no.
but I'm still trying to work out what the best approach is.
Well, let me know, because I'm happy to do anything in those lines, and I'm going to see if I can find myself at one of these meetings to get some more information.
Yeah, great.
Maria, I don't know if you know Alan Moore, who's in this meeting, but you did work on air quality, didn't you?
Sorry, you're talking to me?
I'm just introducing you to Alan Moore.
Yeah, we have an air quality monitor, which I actually don't know which of our members. Sorry, this is I'm Chair of Braunston Climate Action Network, and one of our members has that. We are on a map of the world but yeah, sadly that's not active at the moment. But I do think, sort of separately from that, I think what Maria said is interesting, that if our councillors won't accept anything to do with climate, then perhaps going down the route of air quality is something that they might find a bit more practical. And I'm interested when something pops up on news feeds about poor air quality in certain areas of Northampton, and that might be a more profitable route to nag them on.
Yes, thank you.
Therese, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I agree on that point. I think air quality would be a really good one to go in with, because I think it's a unanimous interested area that, you know, you'll grab people's attention, won't you? But I was just going to mention, I went to the NCALC AGM the other day, and Mark Hunnell was there, and they were talking about planning. There was a lot about planning, because obviously the big warehouse thing that's gone on, and there was lots of upset people there about the planning situation, and they were given reassurances that they're having a big review of their planning department, and there's going to be more jobs, and there's going to be, you know, better and improved strategy. So I put my hand up and asked about, will there be a high focus on renewable energy? And I said, obviously we're in a climate emergency, and I'd hope that that's very much high on the agenda. And it was quite funny, because he said, I agree, there is a climate emergency. And they kind of said they would, but I don't know. But I wondered whether there's something there to follow up on, if they are doing this big sort of reform of their planning area. It'd be good to know what that is and how it's going to change and so forth. So it might be useful to find out somehow what's happening there.
Aren't there statutory limits for air quality? Are they actually written into legislation, what we're supposed to aim for? And
they are, Hilary, but the technique for measuring is such that amateurs can't really do it. The equipment you need is very expensive. There is one air quality monitoring site at Spring Park. Is it Spring Park in Northampton? And that's the one that feeds into the national network. And it never really shows us, as Northampton, that is, getting anywhere near legal thresholds of danger. But that's because the legal limits are a bit silly. I think, Maria, you know that any pollution in the air is bad for you, and these figures of must not exceed such and such doesn't take into account the fact that breathing in any pollution is not good for people anyway, particularly very young lungs, or anyone who's got an already breathing problems.
Yeah, and it's atrocious near the so-called bus station, which is a travesty, you know. They're not even calling it a bus station now, they're calling it an interchange, but all up and down the main street, you've got buses queuing up, and you've got horrendous air pollution. I mean,
do you know that there are air quality monitors that the council is running within Northampton? There is a map that shows the air quality. Are you aware of that?
Well, I knew it was bad in that particular area, you know, near the so-called bus station and down those main roads. It's always well above legal limits.
Sorry, Jonathan, Mike's got his hand up.
Yeah. There's someone who went down with bronchitis in the middle of a really warm, hot, bright summer in London. I can agree that pollution's a problem. It's a shame my doctor didn't tell me if I left the city for a couple of weeks, I'd get better instead of having bronchitis for the entire summer. But as far as climate change is concerned, I don't think there's an awful lot that the council can do to make matters worse, because all their contractors are going to be signed up to net zero or progressing to net zero. The only thing it's going to do is increase their expenses, because their contractors are going to send the older kit here, and they will continue putting their new kit into the council areas that are committed. And mainly it's going to hit the council's buildings, I think. They're not going to be putting insulation in or various measures, so they're just going to increase their own costs. It's going to be quite counterproductive now. That's my view.
Jonathan.
So as you probably all know, I'm probably the most cynical person there is at the minute about where the council stands on these matters, having worked quite hard for the last 4 years to get to a consensus position.
So it's probably just worth saying, sorry to interrupt you, I don't chair anymore, but just for Grace's benefit, because she's not been to a meeting before, Jonathan is a Liberal Democrat councillor on West Northampton Council. So that's
yes,
quite
thank
well
you.
informed on these matters.
I should have done that. So I'm pretty cynical about where we've got to with the council, because we had some consensus. It wasn't necessarily moving at pace as it was anyway under the old regime, but at least there was a general agreement that A, there was a climate crisis, and B, the council needed to do something about it because I had a responsibility to do something about it. So some of you will know, some of you won't know, that we had some interim net zero targets actually to reduce the council's footprint from an emissions point of view, which was set at 2030. The new regime have binned that entirely. So we are now sat with the official, still legal position of 2050, with no interim steps. So the focus has gone away. The new regime's view is they want to talk about environmental impact, not climate. So now all of the reports don't talk about climate impact, they talk about environmental impact. And actually, if they took to the last full council meeting, sorry if this sounds a bit political, but I can't help it on this issue because I feel so passionately about it. But they took to the last council meeting their plan, which they didn't have a plan, as you probably are aware, for the election, but now they have a plan, which basically mirrors what the Conservatives were developing before. So it sort of just passed from one to the other. And you can't find anything in there that talks about climate. The things that they focus on around environment are about graffiti and fly tipping. So they're issues, you know, but it isn't the reduction of emissions strategy that we were working on as a council collectively. So that decision was called in, and Harry came to that meeting, Rupert was there, and we didn't manage to succeed in getting it to go back to cabinet. So we're stuck with what we've got, really, which is no interim targets. And, you know, I don't see a lot of energy around these issues at all at the moment. Now, there is still a legal requirement, which is the Climate Act of 2008 and the subsequent update in 2019, which the council has no option but to comply with. But of course, you're starting to see now that you've got other political parties at a national level saying they want to review the Climate Act of 2008. So we're in a really separatist era of perspectives on climate. Now there are some things that can still be done and will still have to happen. And that is that and I know Harry's very, very skeptical about local plan and planning, and I don't blame him at all. But it is one of the only ways that we can make sure that we at least are reflecting the legislation is through the local plan. And so that has become my focus, really, is to make sure that local plan, when we finally get it, has got everything in it should have, because they set the policies. And I know Harry's going to say they might set the policies, but people ignore them anyway, and that is also a challenge. But you know, it's a difficult time, is the only way I can describe it. And I don't have an answer yet to what we now need to do to try and get it back on the agenda, but some ideas at this stage. But to all intents and purposes, it's not the best time in our council. This hasn't changed in other councils. Some other councils have still got 2030 net zero targets and making great progress on it. But it's just the decision of this particular administration. So I'll stop before I say anything more too political, probably.
I think from the practical point of view, we're facing misinformation, mostly through social media, but on if you watch these programs that feature today's newspapers headlines, the popular press, which it just makes me very sad, but they are drifting rightwards if ever they were anywhere near the centre ground. And what Corn Exchange can do is just keep on plugging away at the reality of where we find ourselves on that slippery slope. The idea that the United Kingdom is way ahead of anyone else is possibly true, in the sense that we didn't have any coal-fired power stations because they closed all the coal mines. The reality is we aren't planning for the future, where summers are extremely hot and winters could be dreadfully cold. If the water that circulates around our coastline has kept us really quite reasonably mild. If that shifts over the next 25 years, then we'll be jolly cold in winter. The kind of planning that we need from the planners has to look at life in 25 years' time. And they're not doing it. Everything is being done for today, for today's expediency. And I think Corn Exchange can run not pessimistic views, but those things, those practical steps that we collectively must require our government, our local government, to do. So anyway, that's Corn Exchange.
Can I just answer Teresa's question or comment in the chat? So the problem with the Climate Change Act as it stands is it says that councils are responsible for adaptation and mitigation. So that's written into the legislation, but there isn't any legal requirement to report on scopes 1, 2, or 3 at all. We have been doing, and in fact, since about 2022, the council started reporting on its emissions under those scopings, but that was part of the consensus that we had, and it's not clear at the moment whether that will continue. So we knew that the last year's full report, the council's emissions was about 22,000 tonnes of CO2e, not massive in the grand scheme of things, but there is still an opportunity to make inroads on those, but it's about choice decisions. So that's sort of where we're at. There are some things coming down the wire for consultation, and I know it's not climate directly, but the local nature recovery strategy has been delayed again, I understand, but it will be coming down the wire for consultation soon, and that has an opportunity to impact and contribute. But the other thing I would say is lobby your councillors. Lobby your councillors. You know, if you're not happy with what's going on, tell them. They need to know. And Teresa, you mentioned about a review of planning. Well, as a councillor, that's news to me. So.
Oh, so they probably just made it up then.
Just open the map of air quality in Northampton and it's all green. It's not a problem.
Oh, they just coloured it in.
Yeah, but when you click on them, the PMs are okay, the PM 1s and 2.5s, but nitrous oxide, NO2, is 200-300% times, you know, the standard. So they're saying it's green, but the NO2, which is road transport related, is twice as much or 3 times as much in the high street in Northampton as it should be. So how is it green? But that's Airly, which is the app they use. I've never come across it. I should keep that open. It's interesting.
Yes, I keep that's exactly the point that, it's the I mean, if I give you another example, one of the things that was on their meeting agenda last night, they have a range of KPIs that are reported on quarterly. There is no air quality reporting on those quarterly KPIs. It's not even in the deck of areas that get reported on. So that says something. But there is a KPI in there, for instance, for planning matrices for whether planning applications get through on time. And actually they look really, really healthy. But the reason why they look really, really healthy is because they don't take into account all of the renegotiated timeframes. So actually the real measurement for planning success is from the time the application goes in to the time actually it gets approved. And if you were to look at that metric, it's much, much longer. But we don't show that metric. So there are issues, all of these measures can be adapted. I always think it's the same example as train timetables and, flight timetables, if you dare use a flight these days. But, it's the thing around they're so broad that it's quite easy to come within the measure, because that's how they set the targets in the first place. But any ideas that anyone's got from, lobbying from inside, I never had any power, but I did have some degree of influence. But it feels like that influence isn't even there anymore, sadly. So, it's tough times.
So we've got Corn Exchange and the idea of monitoring what the council is doing that Jane has. Are you going to be able to continue to do Council Watch, Jane?
Yes, I think that'll be fine. Just again for people who may not be that familiar, so Council Watch is something which generally I write periodically for Corn Exchange, which is a report on the doings of West Northamptonshire Council. So I've recently published one, which is a sort of bit of a review of where the new administration has got to in their first 6 months. So yes, I'd like to carry on doing that. If anybody else comes across anything that they see that the council has done or published, because it tends to be a sort of a trawl through council meeting papers and things like that. So if anybody else comes across anything they think would be worth featuring at a council watch, then do let me know. Most members of the public, even those who are relatively politically active and aware, do not find it very stimulating to trawl through council meeting papers. So essentially we are doing this, we're just trying to highlight the key points for people who haven't got that time or, attention span. Thanks.
So I think we've got 10 minutes left. The big question that worries the steering group is, are we doing enough as Corn? Is there more that we should be doing? Are the things that we are doing being done thoroughly enough? So that's a kind of general question. The first 4 years history, as it were, is in Corn Exchange right now. And looking back over the last 12 months, we don't seem to have done as much, but that may be because we'd already done a great deal in the preceding years. And I feel that we are preaching to an audience that is very much like-minded. Should we be breaking new ground? Should we be going out there and standing in public places and banging drums? Should we be doing more, or is it okay just to have this this kind of grouping and just hope that we are keeping ourselves sane and setting a correct example? Is there any more that we should be doing by way of outreach, do you think? Teresa?
No, I was just thinking, because I know I work for the Open University, and we bang on in our environment circles that the university should be doing more in X, Y, and Z. And quite often, it falls on deaf ears. But what we do is we do a lot through our student union, and they have way more power. They can bring things to the agenda that we as employees often find difficult. So it was making me think about, reaching out to other areas. And I'm just thinking maybe working with schools might be an option, in that's, that there's a sort of education piece, isn't there? And they can raise things to the agenda, because I mean, I don't know. I think councils would take notice if a school was saying that there's high levels of pollution, and the kids are breathing this in every day while they're walking to school. And I think that has more of a, than if we sort of keep saying things. It was just a thought really about working with, sort of the younger generation.
Jonathan, sorry.
I was just going to echo that entirely. I think, that when you go to schools or talk to schools, it's encouraging that actually they're talking about all the things that politicians in local government who are in power aren't talking about, actually, on a wide range of things, including, dare I mention, equality and diversity and inclusion. That's being discussed at schools, which is great, but it's now being one of those things that's being sidelined. So I think there is a strategy about maybe sidelining or going direct to some of those sources. And we've got some schools that have got these climate awards, and schools have taken those routes. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. That might be a way of trying to promote that sort of education wider. If we're stuck with some people that can't see the wood for the trees now, then let's go to the people who haven't really formed views yet. So I think that is a good strategy to think about. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. Miria, you've been very patient. You're still muted.
Two things occur to me. It seems to me that the government needs to require, after that the PM2 levels, 2.5 levels, and either nitric oxide or nitrogen dioxide, there needs to be two separate measurements for those. They need to decide which is the most toxic in terms of neural damage, because that's the main thing. It's not just, it's autism and dementia, prenatal exposure to air, as well as in your lifetime that you get neural damage, as well as strokes and COPD and other issues. So I think they need to be registered separately. But anyway, that's very far from our power. But talking about schools, Eleanor Lewis-Nichol, who is in the Labour Party, has rewritten lesson plans on climate, on air pollution for Northamptonshire, and has sent that information to Joanna Oakes, who's the air quality officer, and hasn't had a reply. So I asked my councillors today, Labour councillors, Zoe Smith and Bob Purser, to ask Joanna Oakes whether she could at least respond in some way, because everybody needs educating. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got 5 more minutes.
Have we liaised with 1,000 Voices at all? The Umbrella Fair stroke, the group who protest outside the council buildings often.
Yes.
Well, we have a mole, don't we, Mick?
Yes, we have, but unfortunately, the council just dismisses anybody that has a voice like that as just activists, and they get put in the activist box. And sometimes, Harry was saying earlier on, should we bang drums and stuff? And actually, that seems to antagonize rather than create any real engagement. So the difficulty that we have at the moment is that several people from that group have actually been banned from meetings, I understand. So, you know, I sound like I'm really, really negative. I don't mean to sound negative tonight, but I think it's just I am going through the process literally of thinking about how do we resurrect some of this stuff, and I think making it a little bit more focused might work, and I think the air quality is a definite angle to try and to tackle. And Harry and I had a meeting several months ago now to talk about how we might go about it. But he's right for us to try and do any decent measurement, to rove around and do measurement, for instance, away from those specific sites. The kit's just prohibitively expensive, really, isn't it, Harry, to do what we need to do?
Well, I built 20 air quality monitors when we first started out in order to put them around and get a benchmark for our own benefit, so that we could say in 5 years' time, we've been really successful in improving air quality. But well, first of all, we didn't get 20 of them deployed because of COVID. They languished. And secondly, I don't think they monitor accurately in the way that would be of any use in any kind of policy. The early ones are only good in that they are being maintained by a private contractor and they are consistent in their output, but they are only very primitive sensors inside them. They're not at all clever, and I think the values get massaged. I think they use the expression they get calibrated because they're remotely monitored and their readings are adjusted. I'm not suggesting they're fiddled in any sense, but they are they are recalibrating their measurements constantly. I got sidetracked. Mick, Thousand Voices.
Yeah, apart from the Thousand Voices, I think we do talk to them, basically. I think the answer to that. The other thing I'm thinking is that we're at 1.5 degrees now. We're talking about going to 2 degrees by 2050 or maybe earlier. And I think that there are other things coming on the agenda now. There's sort of water security, food security. And I think if those sorts of conversations, we can start those. I mean, the whole idea of any of these conversations is to try and get people to take action personally, isn't it? To see that their children and their grandchildren are at risk. So I'm wondering, sort of starting those sorts of conversations. There doesn't seem to be that much of it locally. We are going to get to a point where we'll be doing food rationing. If we get another summer like we did this one, but actually all those 4 heat waves joined together to give you just one heat wave in the summer, we don't get any crops in the summer. And we get something like 57% of our food from the UK, and we get therefore 43% from abroad, and they won't be sending their food to us if they're going short as well. So I think there's a whole conversation on other areas of climate change, because we're moving from global warming to global boiling, to actually raise, I think, and we could be the ones to start raising that.
Well, I don't want to tread on Rupert's toes, but we've just had the results for the current harvest, and it was the second worst harvest ever, and the first worst harvest was I think 3 years ago. So the 2 worst harvests have been in the last 5 years. We can certainly put something in Corn Exchange about that, because I've got the figures. And there is a new report. Rupert, have you seen this one? Advocating a food network, a food plan, what we should be doing. I'll send you the link.
I was comparing that with Dimbleby's thing today, and it struck me that they put a whole load of academics who had done exactly the same thing as Dimbleby did, and nothing happened much to what Dimbleby said. So one hasn't got much faith in these reports. They love kicking the can down the road by doing another survey and report instead of getting on with things. And that's roughly what's happening, I think. But has anybody else read the report that came out today or yesterday? No, I put the two up side by side on my screen, Dimbleby and theirs, try and compare them. It was quite interesting, but I didn't get right through it all. It's very long, as usual.
Can you write it up for us?
Well, I'll try. It's quite complicated, but I'll try and compare the two, really.
AI will do it for you. If you send them to me, I'll do an AI thing, which will compare and contrast.
Yeah, but I don't trust that.
Yeah, but you can tweak. To go back to Teresa's point about local action. I mean, if activism like Thousand Voices doesn't work, maybe we should find a local, very defined problem, whether it's a planning permission, which would a planning application which would cause pollution, or a local bad, air quality place. And I found, working with my animal rights activism, that we set up a local group, and they're far more effective than the national group. If you get the locals riled, set up a specific Facebook group to deal with one problem, then councils listen because they're their voters. I don't know of an issue. Maybe Jonathan would, a planning application which might have air quality or climate change problem, and if we get the locals involved in that, because often they don't know there's a planning application in process, that would probably be more effective. And as Teresa was saying, just go for something local and very defined.
I think there's a general lack of knowledge altogether, though, with some people, because I was reading today that some of the weather stations alongside roads, which are mainly there to record icing of the roads, they've been being destroyed because people think they're speed cameras. And of course, the money isn't there to replace them. Which is the other aspect of climate change, which the UN has forecast that world GDP is going to reduce. And I think that means that GDP in Britain will reduce significantly. Yet we have government after government after government who are borrowing against a growing GDP. They're not going to be able to afford to repay the interest charges.
Jonathan.
Yeah, mindful of time, I was just going to say a couple of things. That there are some planning applications like you just described. I mean, take a look at the agenda for Strategic Planning Committee for Tuesday, and have a look at the proposed redevelopment around the station area. And that's one already potentially you could comment on, but that's a bit soon. But I mean, there are regular planning applications of large scale. They all have some degree of impact or implication on climate, that's for sure. The other thing I was going to mention is the audit committee runs a risk register. And on the risk register, interestingly, energy is recorded on there. So the provision of energy for future is on there as a risk issue. I don't sit on the audit committee, but I attended a meeting and raised the issue of water and said, well, why is water not on the risk register? If energy's on there, why isn't water on there? And I got a long gap of no response back, but then a response of saying it's not deemed to be a significant risk compared to energy, which I can't fathom. So a practical thing, for instance, could be, again, that is a committee, it's a public committee. People can go as members of the public. So whenever that usually is discussed at every audit committee, the risk register. So I would personally love for anyone to come along and say, why on earth is water not on your risk register, with some evidence and information around it? That would be a good step, because The more people that raise the issue and try and put it forward, we all know water's at risk if you're talking into the future with all the development that's planned. So that's another example where I think it's about just constant lobbying and raising the issues. But the scenario we're in at the moment is evidence doesn't seem to count for very much, is the bottom line. Harry was at the call-in meeting. When you have a vice chair of a committee saying, but there's bundles of evidence out there that says climate change is not man-made at all, and when challenged and you basically say, well, provide the evidence then that says that, we're 2 months on from that, and guess what? We haven't received it because it doesn't exist. But that's what we're dealing with, unfortunately. We're dealing with people who don't deal with facts. So
I'm very conscious that we've overrun by 6 minutes. So if anyone's got something to do immediately, then
I've been summoned, Harry, so I have to go. So
I just want to say thank you very much for all of you. It's so reassuring that see such friendly faces. Thank you very much. I'm quite happy to stick around for a few more minutes if anyone wants to chatter about anything, but I'd say goodbye to anybody who has to go. Hilary.
Just about the direct debit, you've presumably got my email.
I have.
So you can send me the figures, the numbers I need.
That's not until Christmas.
All right. Okay.
We're going to be hit from December onwards.
All right.
Thank you very much.
That gives us a bit of time because I've smashed my shoulder and I can't drive at the moment. So, because I haven't got internet.
We'll do it all by email, Hilary. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Anybody else wanted to hang around, or are we going to say goodbye to everybody? So we'll say goodbye then. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid. So it's lovely to see everybody. Thank you very much. I think that's very
Mike,
useful
I need to talk to you about the festival, please. And if anyone wants to talk about heat pumps or solar panels or solar thermal or retrofit, then I'm happy to chat about that at any time.
Could Rupert just give me the name of that report he mentioned?
While you were talking, then I was trying to find it, but it came out as the fruit and land strategy something.
Martin, I've got it. I'll send you I'll send it in an email for you.
Thank you, most kind.
I can't find where I've saved it. I've saved it somewhere. I can't find it on my computer at the moment. Sorry.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, everybody.
Right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Roy. Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye, Grace. Thank you very much for coming.
Bye. Thanks for having me. It was nice to meet you all.
Thank you.